let me see. Oh, it looks like there's bugs that are still eating that. So I'm gonna have to make my borax mixture in order to get those little bichos out of there. I think it's funny that bicho sounds a little bit like bitch. Bichos are bugs in Spanish, so we can get those little bichos out of there. Good morning. Hello everybody. It's been a couple weeks since we've been able to work on the house. I've had to do some of my own work, my own editing work, in order to save up for paying my workers and getting materials, so I've been on a little bit of a hiatus, but we're back to building now. Finally got some materials in that we were waiting for, getting the lime in. In Panama, it's a little bit difficult to get lime that either you don't need a permit for or isn't mixed with a preservative that's toxic. So I wanted to get a lime that's very good quality, and that's why I use the brand that I do. And it comes from the States, and I'm very happy with it. The results are absolutely beautiful. He did this chocolate layer, but there was lots of patches of white that was left in it. So I went through and I used the same mixture with the color and the lime to fix in the patches, but it looks like that color came out lighter. So it seems like as you apply double layers, then the color changes, so you can't just easily patch up color, which is unfortunate. So what we're gonna have to do is redo this wall, have the same color, just make a bigger batch of it, and then just make sure that we do the putty closely together so that you don't get any of those white spots. If you use a sponge that has too much water, or if you don't put the putty close enough and put it in spots that are kind of separated, then you're going to get some places where it's just not going to have that color. It's not going to fill in, or the color will drain off because you use too much water. So you want it to be very light on water with the sponge, damp but not wet, not dripping, and then putty close together so you really get a concentrated color. So what we're going to do is redo this wall. We have other walls that still need color, and yeah, we're going to keep going. This is the other side of this middle room where we don't have the color on yet. So we have the first layer up here. It's kind of gritty. If you touch it, the grit runs off, the sand runs off. So we were thinking if we're sitting here on the couch, then it kind of might snag clothes, it might get all over, you know, couch, the floor. So what we wanted to do was, at least for about height level to the floor, put on a second layer. This wall has a lot of texture in it. It has a lot of waves. Can't really be applied like a concrete plaster on a concrete wall or a flat wall where you would start from the bottom and go all the way up. It has to be kind of applied in patches and then blended in. So that's why you see these little divots here. But I kind of like that. I like that it's got that texture still. So this part down below that has the second layer is definitely a lot smoother, which I do like. I think this is going to look really nice with the color. And we just want to make sure that when we put the color on, we start from up above and then work our way down so that we don't have color that's bleeding from the top and ruining the color on the bottom. So you want to start with a section at the top and then work your way down the wall. So lime is such an incredible material because unlike cement plaster, lime is still breathable. So it's crushed limestone, and when you mix it with sand, then you get a breathable plaster. So you get mold, you get humidity being trapped. When you use cement plasters, lime allows that humidity to pass. And to color the lime, you can use a clay-based mix with lime. One thing you want to do is just make sure that you do have enough color made so that you get consistency. So because if you make a second batch and there's a little bit less clay or a little bit more clay than before, then you might get a color difference and it'll show up on the wall. So living in a humid climate and having these limestone walls is going to make sure that we don't have any mold buildup within the house, which is very important for our health. Mold toxicity is a very common issue throughout the world, especially in first world where we have homes that are made out of wood and fiberglass and materials that essentially disconnect that home from nature. So when you use cement, when you use paint, these things seal in humidity. And by living in a home that has these things, you're living almost within a plastic bag. When you separate yourself from nature, your body is a part of nature, so that's why we have so many health problems that are tied to mold toxicity within the house, including autoimmunity, different cancers, breathing issues. So it's really important to use natural materials within your home because then you can keep that synergy, that balance between nature, and your body can feel in harmony and equilibrium with nature as well because it is a part of it. All right, I'm gonna have Ali mix up some more color. He's gonna keep going on the other wall. Going to just do another little bit of instruction here to make sure we're doing it properly so we don't get the splotchy colors we did before. We're gonna try to put the lime putty a little bit closer together so that we get a nice even color. And I'm going to work on building the mud frame for the bed as well with Minu and Benino. Tiene que ser más pegado y más. Ajá, y con más también. Algo. Allá, así. Entonces, que hay que usar poquito agua. No mucho. Así como una pasada gruesa y poquito seca. Pero pienso que todavía tiene demasiada agua.
¿Con la esponja?
Ajá. Tiene que ser casi seco. Así es, como pintar. So yesterday I explained a little bit better how we should put on the lime plaster. We should stick a good amount on, good chunks on, very close together, before spreading it out with an almost dry sponge, not too much water. And look how beautiful it came out. Much more uniform color. No white spots. Ali did an amazing job. The color, it will change a little bit as it dries, but you can see the difference between the original and the one with color. Okay, so we've got Benino, Ali, and Mino working on different projects in the house. I just put away my laptop. I did a little bit of work here. This little tree stump, have my laptop here, and sat on this bench. But let's go and check out how their work is coming along. Ali, he's adding another layer of color to make this wall darker because it was very light before compared to the other walls. So he's adding another layer. Lime plaster really close. You clump it together really close like this. Use a sponge that's not too damp and then spread it out. So you get a nice thick paste. And it's a mixture of lime, that's the main part of it, and then just a little bit of clay in order to get the color that you want. So you'll have to test what kinds of clay, how much clay, depending on how much lime you have. For us, we use 7 kind of big ladles full of lime with 3 bottle caps of a brown clay, umber clay, and that gave us this color. So keep in mind, if you have a white base, lime, then you want to make sure that color's a little bit darker going on because the lime from the back will come through. Got Minu, and he is wetting all of the walls. So you don't want to apply lime plaster to a wall that's dry or to a wall that doesn't have sufficient water in it because then that wall will pull out all of the moisture from the lime and then your plaster will crack and you'll lose it. You won't be able to reuse it either. So very important to wet the walls for several days, even several times a day if they are old, in order to prepare them for the lime. Then we have Benino in here. We've been trying like 3-4 different methods for putting this lime plaster on. How can we, do we do 1 pass? Do we do 2? A thick one at the same time? Do we do 2 thin ones separated different times? Do we use a trowel to spread it all in one go? Do we put it on in patches because the walls have uneven texture? So there's just so many different techniques that you can use, and we've kind of decided to change it based on the wall. So if the wall has a lot of texture, a lot of movement, so like this kind of wall up here, it's hard to see, then you might want to do it like we did in this wall back here, where we're putting it on a little piece at a time, and then kind of rubbing it through with the sponge. So it's impossible to use like a flat trowel to just make the plaster all even, unless you want to get a very, very thick wall on that. If you wanted to do something like that, the best way to do that would be to make sure when you put the clay walls up that you prioritize making them very flat. So some of the walls in our house, depending on who put them up, are very flat. So this one we were able to do like a traditional technique where you have a wooden float that kind of gets all the lime spread out evenly, and then you go with a metal float and then push it up and even it out with water. So this came out very smooth and beautiful. This was a different technique up here where we're not using the wooden float at all, and I didn't like that it has so many divots in it, so this is another method that we're trying. And we get little cracks in it, but I think those should be okay. Well, those should be covered up probably with the paint. A very, very tiny micro cracks here, but this is smooth and it came out nice. So this is something that works well for the flat wall, and Benino is doing this method. So it's very similar to how you would do a concrete plaster in that sense.